So, Miss Ambrose, as we know, we're talking about, and the main concern right here is domestic violence. How would you define domestic violence in your own words?
For me, I just think it's whenever a person in an intimate relationship gain power and control over another person in an unhealthy way.
Mm-hmm.
And and that can be, I think we focus on physical, but that can be financial, emotional, psychological, spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
It can be in any way. I think nowadays that the definition has totally to me broadened. We have this technology, I think, with cell phones and with all this immediate contact. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I've noticed I work with people who think it's so loving for someone to contact them every 5 or 15 minutes and they even buy them a cell phone and to see
Mm-hmm.
how they're doing. But then they become very abusive when the person don't answer their text or don't respond right away. And it's like, to me, that's a form of domestic violence, controlling
Mm-hmm.
a person's location and their need to have to answer your phone call right away or respond to your phone
Mm-hmm.
call and having all these consequences if they don't.
Mm-hmm.
Like stalking,
Mm-hmm.
to me, that's a form of domestic
Domestic
violence.
violence.
So, anytime someone uses power and control to control another person in an intimate relationship.
Okay, thank you. Couple of questions that my group members wanted to ask you, and again, we can go with. Let's see how related to this is. One person is in charge of children's affected in domestic violence. So his question was, how were children affected by domestic violence? How are they mentally and physically, etc. Like, what effect does it have on them? And then,
Okay. I think domestic violence fall under the category of any disruption in the family.
mm-hmm,
So, there's the broad disruptions effects is when the kid actually see and hear
mm-hmm,
all of that, and they may not be physically being harmed, but they still fear for their lives and fear for that other person's lives. They fear for their uncertainty.
mm-hmm,
Then it's the kind that we really don't get to measure. It's when kids are in school, and for boys, boys' depression looks like anger. So they act out in
mm-hmm,
anger. They get in all this trouble, and people may think they're this kind of boy, this kind of kid, when really they don't have the words to express what's going on in their house. They don't have the words to express what's going on in their mind, and they act out in the only way that they know how, which is being verbal, being rude, being obnoxious. And
mm-hmm,
girls, with depression, isolation, um, and this can be for boys or for girls, but the poor grades or trying to people please.
mm-hmm,
Or girls, to me, teenage pregnancy is a way of just trying to find someone to care for you and to love. And it can show in girls and in boys with all types of addiction, as far as food, looking for some way to be comforted, as far
mm-hmm,
as sex, looking for
mm-hmm,
relationships and way to be comforted at very young ages. When I was at my other place, I worked with someone's older sister, and she caught her younger sister. I worked with her. She was that 13. She was a freshman in high school, and she caught her younger sister, who was only in fourth grade, giving oral copulation to
mm-hmm.
another fourth grade
Oh,
boy.
okay.
And, just listening to her and stuff like that, I think the girl just was looking for, this little boy wanted her, and he asked for that, and that was a need to feel needed and to feel wanted. So I think indirectly, it's all these things we don't
Mm-hmm,
look at, like suicide, depression, drug use, addiction.
mm-hmm,
I mean, and behavior outbursts. And I think they get treated with we treat people with what we see on the outside. A kid acts up and go off on class or beat up someone, and we think he's a bully, and we're looking at, well, that's what he's learned, that's what he knows, or
mm-hmm.
he has no power at home, he can't beat up his mother or his father
Yeah.
to protect him, so he go beats. So I think it looks a lot of different ways for a lot of kids, and I think for me, whenever I see a kid with a struggle, I just like I do the whole assessment. Is it drugs? Is it domestic violence? Is it you know molest or sexual whatever? Something is going on with this kid, and this is his response. Not going straight to the kid is just a bad kid or the kid is just doing that. I'm thinking, what is an environment that's out of control? And a lot of times it's domestic violence.
Let me shift gears right here.
Okay.
And a part of our group is to actually explore domestic violence and in its association with Gay and Lesbian Society. Um, are there any differences in the domestic violence cases contrast to straight couples and gay and lesbians?
For me, I haven't had a lot of experience,
Mm-hmm.
but the reason why I think there may be differences, but the biggest difference I see is that, okay, it took a long time for domestic violence to be discussed
Mm-hmm.
between heterosexual couples.
Mm-hmm.
So we're pretty advanced
Mm-hmm.
as far as that discussion and being open to it. Then it took a longer time for teens to understand that it can happen to teens.
Mm-hmm.
So they're getting there. Now it's taking a longer time because of secrecy, because of silence, to understand that it happens in homosexual relationships. So therefore, I think they're behind because I think things have changed. I mean, I think the questionnaires when you come to Kaiser, when you go to the medical, they ask. They don't assume that it's a heterosexual couple, so they ask. So that means it's out there.
Mm-hmm.
I go to places and I see posters showing different things. So I think I think it's growing. But I think as long as there's secrets and silence,
Mm-hmm.
I think we really won't know the magnitude.
Mm-hmm.
But because I think people are not open and feel comfortable to talk about it,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's changing. But I think it's going to be slow.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that it's probably the same, but they may see it different because their relationship is different,
Mm-hmm.
and because of the way that they sometimes connect and hesitancy to just the whole. I mean, male-female relationship, we just go to a guy interested, you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
But when people don't know if someone would be interested, don't know what their consequences will be, don't know if that person has issues with it, then it makes it kind of undercover.
Mm-hmm.
And that I think that secrecy anytime you keep secrets and quiet and sneak around,
Mm-hmm.
I think there's more room for violence. So I actually think it's probably higher in that community, not because of any other reason, but just because communication and openness keeps things in control, and secrets
Mm-hmm.
and silence and hiding things keeps things out of control. And so people don't know who to go to and the resources. So for that reason, I feel it's not being treated as well as it is in the heterosexual community.
Oh.
But other than that, no, I think people beat on people no matter who they are, what their sexual orientation. And I think people try to control people and dominate people no matter what their sexual orientation is.
So, like you said, now in Kaiser they actually do ask you
Mm-hmm.
of you. So as far as resources being available, as open as it is not, and you said there's secrets, but now there's some organization like Kaiser which is recognizing that it might not be a straight couple, so they put it in their questionnaires,
Right.
and they do try to find out.
Right.
So yeah, we're seeing a little, advancing, and like you
Right.
said, we're kind of moving up there. So there are resources for this particular group.
Yeah.
Lastly, moving on to the media and its influence. Do you think that domestic violence? What role does media play into it?
I thought about that. I really don't know about, as far as let's look at the media. I really don't watch a lot of TVs and movies and things like that, but I find it more in music.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even when I was working with teens, I used to really listen to their music, and to me, it's more in the music, and it's in video games, and it's in definitely in music videos,
Video.
and it seems like they normalize it or they minimize it to me. And I think as long as you normalize and minimize things, people overall do not understand the problem with doing that behavior. And so it fosters that behavior, it increases it. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that we normalize it, we minimize it, and we see it so much till we become desensitized to it. And domestic violence usually start off small.
Mm-hmm.
And so because it starts off small, it builds up. Everyone, oh, that's all he did, or this and that, or he was just drunk, or she was just this, or both of us was loaded, or we just came from seeing this movie, and I think that part is to me is the biggest part that I see. But as far as seeing it on TV, seeing that, I just think violence is more glamorized now, and that's just all a part of violence. And I don't know if it's a distinction or not between the type of violence.
So, then it comes down again to where parents do need to monitor, you know,
Mm-hmm.
what the kids are watching. You know, now the video games have we seen like this grand auto theft where you can
Mm-hmm.
actually go and rob somebody in the game, and you
Mm-hmm.
see kids are so into it. So I guess
Right.
and there's a in that part of the game we're actually going through a class where it shows that you can go in and you can actually get a hooker, you know, a
Mm-hmm.
prostitute is what they're saying, and actually have sex with her, do sexual things in a van. And this isn't a game
Mm-hmm.
which I've seen
Yeah.
teenagers play. So
Or young teens, or
yeah, yeah,
junior high, or
junior, yeah.
even fourth and fifth.
So
You know, the biggest thing I found before I left the county, I was working with the schools, and you know, for a lot of schools, the job for the vice principal is to watch YouTube and watch all these videos because I had a lot of kids who they end up getting busted over a video, and one of the videos is, you know, these fights. They're like two girls fighting, and everyone's pushing that, and they take a video of it, and the girls are proud. Sometimes it's like a mutual decision, or the guys are proud, and they like cheering, and when we talk about this with the kids, they're like they don't really see what's so wrong with it. They don't see what's wrong with it. So to me, it starts with that. It's this whole glamorizing and the power of beating kids up and bullying other kids. This mutual combat and this videotaping it, and kids are watching. No one's calling the police. No one's calling the parents. No one's telling them. And even the ones that they're watching it and just being a part of it. So to me, that's all a part of the same thing. It's YouTube's and
all right.
yeah.
Well, you know that will be it. Thank you, Miss Ambrose. I
That's
appreciate
it.
your help.
All right.
All right. Thank you
Good.
very much.
All right.